In the year 2023, a thorough, scheduled renovation commenced at an old government ministry building. Constructed in the middle of the 20th century, the edifice had served as a large-scale administrative center. The scope of the modernization project was building-wide, including its service floors and the underground cellars. An engineering crew was engaged in a detailed cross-reference of the structure's existing layout with its initial architectural drawings. In the course of this work, they discovered an anomaly within a section of the basement. An architectural plan dating from the 1960s showed a room labeled 047B. Yet, where the room should have been, there was merely an unbroken brick wall with no visible means of entry. The first theory proposed that the office had been eliminated during an earlier renovation. A closer inspection of the wall, however, revealed the outline of a blocked-up entrance. While the bricks used for the seal looked old, their texture and color differed from the main wall around it. It was decided to penetrate the sealed entrance. The facilities manager supervised the effort, along with an official from the State Archives Agency. After removing the brickwork, they uncovered a steel door that had an old-fashioned lock. A pristine wax seal from a national security service was fastened to the door, dated 1971. The seal had not been broken. The door was unsealed and swung open, revealing a small, windowless room. The air within was exceptionally dry and thick with the smell of old paper and settled dust. Everything inside the room was in a state of immaculate preservation. It contained a desk, a chair, a document cabinet, and a range of technical equipment. A uniform layer of dust covered all surfaces. An initial assessment concluded that the office, though abandoned in a hurry, had been sealed according to official protocol. This was not a space that had been forgotten, but one that had been deliberately preserved. Experts from the government archives, alongside historians specializing in intelligence history, were brought in to determine the purpose of Office 047B. By examining the equipment and paperwork they found, its function was quickly identified. This room had been an analytical post for data processing from the 1960s through the beginning of the 1970s. Its main purpose was the monitoring and interpretation of radio signals. Its location underground provided necessary soundproofing and protection from outside electromagnetic interference. The person working here was responsible for deciphering intercepted communications and compiling daily reports for senior leadership. It was a lower-level but vital part of a much larger intelligence network. Such offices were set up in many government buildings as a way to decentralize intelligence activities and improve security. The office was identified in official records with the designation Signal 4. It was not tied to any specific major operation, but was focused on the day-to-day gathering of intelligence on a potential adversary nation. The operation of these posts followed very strict rules. Only a handful of people with the right clearance could enter. Archival records show that the room was sealed in 1971 due to a technological upgrade. The intelligence service was transitioning to newer systems that required different kinds of facilities. The old station was considered obsolete. It was sealed with some of its equipment, which, while not valuable anymore, still contained traces of classified work. The rules at that time required site to be completely isolated when it was decommissioned. After the room was unsealed, a meticulous inventory of its contents was conducted. Every item was carefully cataloged, photographed, and reviewed by specialists. The centerpiece of the room was a large oak desk with a green felt top, unreplaced, a lamp with a heavy metal base, a Bakelite inkwell stand holding 2 ink pots, a thick glass ashtray containing the butt of 1 cigarette of the Savitsky brand, a stack of A4 paper, which had turned yellow with age, a black telephone with a rotary dial, model TS55. Its wire was disconnected from the wall jack. To the right of the desk, a set of equipment was arranged on a separate table. A shortwave radio receiver using vacuum tubes, model KR600 Baikal. The device was turned off. A reel-to-reel tape recorder, the Melody RS model. A reel of Type 6 magnetic tape was on the machine, with some of the tape unwound. A teletype machine, model T200. A roll of paper tape was loaded inside, with the last received message cut off in the middle of a word. A metal safe and a filing cabinet stood against the wall. The safe was unlocked and unsealed. Inside were bound logbooks that recorded incoming and outgoing coded transmissions from 1969 to 1971. The cabinet contained technical manuals for the equipment, binders with agency rules, and multiple folders of analytical reports. All documents were stamped with the classification for internal use only. A tear-off calendar hung on the wall. The page showing was for Tuesday, the 12th of October, 1971. Next to it was a political map of Europe with handwritten marks near several port cities. A portrait of Sergei Orlov was hanging above the map. The overall condition of all items was judged to be excellent. The dry air and lack of light had preserved the paper, fabric, and metal. The room offered an exact, documentary snapshot of an analyst's single workday in the autumn of 1971. Official files gave no personal details about the analyst. The logs used only service identification numbers and code names. However, some informal findings helped to piece together a personal picture. A cigarette, but in the ashtray, was a key clue. It was a Sovietsky, a popular brand at the time. An empty box of matches from the Minsk Match Factory lay beside the ashtray. In a desk drawer, several notes written in pencil were discovered. One was a diagram for a chess problem, a mate in 3 moves. This suggests the analyst was a chess enthusiast who likely worked on such puzzles in his free time. A torn piece of a newspaper was found inside one of the report folders. It was a TV guide for the week. A hockey match between the Spartak and Torpedo teams, scheduled for the evening of October 12, 1971, had been circled in red pencil. This points to the employee's personal interest in sports. The most personal finding was an unfinished cup of tea with dried leaves at the bottom. A chemical test showed a high tannin level, meaning it was very strong black tea. The cup was left right on the desk next to the logbooks. These clues create a portrait of a person, not just a cog in a machine. The analyst was a man, likely in his middle age. He was a smoker who enjoyed chess and hockey. The strong tea points to a focus on his work, but he was not without ordinary human routines. The abandoned teacup, the loose tape, and the incomplete teletype message all show a scene of work that was stopped suddenly. The order to seal the station must have come with no warning. The employee was likely told to leave his post immediately, leaving everything as it was. Office 047B is more than just a storeroom for outdated technology. It is a physical imprint of its time. Every item inside is a symbol of the Cold War era. The tube radio, reel-to-reel machine, and teletype were the signature technologies of their time. They were bulky and used a lot of power, but they were reliable. They represent the technological level of that period. It was an analog world where information moved on physical media, on tapes, punch cards, and paper messages. This was a time before the digital revolution, the internet, and satellite communications. The strict system of record-keeping and control is visible everywhere. The bound logbooks, wax seals, and classification stamps all point to this. The government machine operated on clear, formal rules. Every action was documented. The employee's identity was secondary to his official function. The lack of windows and the basement location were not just for technical needs. They are a metaphor for the secrecy and isolation that characterized the whole period. The conflict between the two world powers was fought not only on battlegrounds, but also in quiet, hidden offices like this one. The political map on the wall, with its markings, is direct evidence of constant global surveillance. The analyst's personal items, the chess puzzle, the interest in hockey, the cigarettes, show that even within a rigid and impersonal system, there was room for individual humanity. Daily duties did not eliminate simple, everyday hobbies. This personal life, however, was completely subject to the needs of the service. Thus, the discovered office is a miniature representation. It contains the ideological, technological, and psychological state of a society at a specific point in history. It is a material witness to an era, revealing more about the past than many written archives. After the inventory and analysis were finished, the agency's leadership had to decide what to do with Office 047B. Two main options were proposed. The first option was complete disposal. This would mean removing and destroying all the equipment and papers. The room would then be remodeled and used for modern needs. This was a practical and cost-effective solution. From a purely utilitarian standpoint, the office had no value. The second option was to preserve it as a museum piece. This idea was supported by the historians and archivists who took part in the discovery. They argued that the site had unique importance. The office was a genuine time capsule, an untouched installation that showed the real working environment of the Cold War. Its value was not practical, but historical and cultural. Officials from several national museums supported the second option. They pointed out that authentic sites like this have rarely survived into the modern era. Most similar rooms were either updated many times or completely taken apart. An interdepartmental committee made the final decision. Considering the significant public and historical interest, they chose a compromise. The decision was made to keep Office 047B in its original state. All artifacts were left where they were found. The room was sealed again, and a climate control system was installed to stop any more decay of the materials. Direct physical entry into the office itself was restricted. However, a plan was approved to create a small exhibit in a room next to it. This exhibit presents detailed photographs, copies of documents, and a three-dimensional model of the office. A virtual tour allows anyone to explore the discovery without harming its integrity. In this way, the time capsule has been protected for future generations, acting as a physical monument to a complex and tense period in history.